Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this event where we highlight CSR and its important role in everything we do at PNBC. This session is being recorded, just so everybody is aware of that, and there are several reasons for recording it, but the most important reason is that due to an internal miscommunication, the information for this was sent out rather late, and we thank those of you who, in spite of the short notice, have been able to clear your calendars and join us for this event. My name is Carl, as you all know. I'm president of PNBC, and we have been working first and foremost through our colleague Ozone, from Norconsult, who is very much the primus motor behind the CSR Guidebook. I begin a few minutes here at the beginning to speak a little bit about this, and let's start with what we see in the world around us. If anything, it proves the importance of CSR, and we see it especially vividly here in the Philippines. We have multiple companies and organizations who step up to the plate and all do what they can to assist and help the societies of which they are part, which is the very core of what CSR is all about. You could argue that the pandemic has made it abundantly clear that we are indeed in it together, whether we like it or not. And we have from PNBC's side already during last year, we don't necessarily bang on the largest drum we can find, but PNBC as well as many of our members have been quietly and diligently providing assistance wherever they could, and this assistance ranged all the way from local institutions at barangay level, all the way up to countrywide organizations such as the Red Cross. And for that, all members who have stepped up, they obviously deserve our thanks and our gratitude. Very, very well done. The other interesting thing is, it's hard to avoid the topic of COVID-19 because it's around us all the time. The other thing that is interesting is how it has managed to bring to the forefront again the importance of CSR. Prior to COVID, all eyes were on the environmental sustainability goals. They haven't become less important, but as the old Chinese proverb says, you do not worry about your beard when somebody is trying to cut your head off. And that was, in a way, the situation we found ourselves in last year, that we had a rather pressing concern to deal with, which was a pandemic. Here in the Philippines, the effect was severe. We saw a strong contraction of GDP. We saw a strong increase in unemployment. We have seen, this was to be expected, I guess. There has been and there is a baby boom in the making, and this will put a strain on the social nets in the Philippines in the years going forwards. There will be a large spike in population where education, child support, etc. will be needed. All of this plays straight into the hands of our focus on CSR. I hope you enjoy the presentations that we have lined up for you. Our master of ceremony is, as always, the one and only Ozone. And I would like to wrap it up by thanking the companies who have allocated both their people and time to share with us today how they have worked with CSR. Ozone will introduce each of them in turn and give them their moment to shine. With that, again, apologies for the rather late invitation. We're very happy to see the screen fill up with names of people participating. Thank you so much for that. And I hand you over to Ozone, who will guide us through the rest of the program. Thank you so much. Over to you, Ozone.
Thank you very much, Carl Martin, for that very warm welcome remarks. That sets the tone very well indeed for our event today. The next part of our program will be a message from the Royal Norwegian Embassy in Manila. Let us all welcome Ambassador Bjorn Jansen.
Thank you, Ozone. And echoing the words of Carl Martin, I would also like to thank PNBC for organizing this important event, and also the companies who will present later. Thank you for taking the time, for your efforts on this important topic. Euroconsult, SM Power, and the Tome Group, who will share their experiences later. Now, corporate social responsibility is an important topic for the Norwegian government because it means that businesses assume responsibility for their impact on people, the environment, and the communities and societies in which they operate. The Norwegian government expects all Norwegian companies to exercise corporate social responsibility, whether they are state-owned or privately owned, and whether their activities are in Norway or abroad. The Norwegian government believes that exercising corporate social responsibility is important for safeguarding shareholder value. And we have specific expectations relating to CSR in 4 core areas. It's climate change and environment, it's on human rights, workers' rights, and anti-corruption. The government's expectations are built on both national and international standards. The OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises, the UN guiding principles on business and human rights, and the UN Global Compact. Norway's national contact point for the OECD guidelines raises awareness of the guidelines and handles complaints regarding possible breaches by Norwegian businesses with international operations. This contact point is a non-judicial grievance mechanism for dialogue and mediation, and the contact details are on the MFA, the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs website. And with those words, I hand it back to you, Ozone.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. As you are also one of the presenters of the CSR case studies featured in the CSR Guidebook that we are launching today, you may also please continue, Ambassador, with the Norwegian wood case study aligned with the environmental investment pillar of CSR.
Yeah, so we're going to show a short film, but I will just first put this in context. At the embassy, we are, a comparatively small operation, only about 25 people, but we have decided early on to try to do some small but impactful projects. One was 2 years ago we installed solar panels on the Norwegian residence in Manila. So the Norwegian residence in the Philippines for the embassy is the first diplomatic residence in the Philippines powered by solar power. We have also tried to switch our supplier of energy to a renewable source. However, unfortunately, the rules in the Philippines did not allow that at the moment. Your consumption has to be higher. With that in mind, we decided to try to offset our carbon footprint. With the help of Ozone, we calculated how many trees we had to plant, and this is how it went. So, Jan Andre, roll movie. to everyone. Thank you for coming this morning. Now, here at the embassy in Manila, the Royal Norwegian Embassy, we are trying to reduce our carbon footprint. By planting 500 trees, tree seedlings this year, the embassy is offsetting roughly around 74 tons of carbon dioxide, equivalent to the projected carbon footprint from the embassy this year. Norwegian Embassy in Manila. I'm really happy to take part in this activity in the La Mesa watershed here today, where we are planting 500 trees to offset our carbon footprint in the Philippines. We encourage everyone else to take part in this activity to together combat climate change in the world. So with 500 seedlings, we offset 74 tons of carbon dioxide, and the embassy is going to continue this project every year, planting new tree seedlings. Now, by concluding, I would just say La Mesa, the place we went, is a fantastic place in Manila. I'm actually going there mountain biking on Saturday, so anyone who has a chance to visit La Mesa, I highly recommend it. So with those words, back to you, Ozan.
Thank you once again, Ambassador. Very nice name for the project as well, Norwegian Wood. So for our next case study, ladies and gentlemen, this one is aligned with the community investment pillar of CSR in the Philippines. Let us welcome Ms. Ana Rose Jacinto of Jotun, Philippines. Ana Rose.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, trust all is well, including your families. So thank you also for the introduction. My name is Ana Rosa Jacinto. I'm from HR and Admin Department of Jotun, Philippines, and one of the coordinators of our company when it comes to CSR, headed by our HR and Admin Manager, Clarissa Oy. First of all, we would like to thank PNBC through Ozone for this opportunity to share on how CSR works in Jotun, Philippines. So just sharing my screen. Okay, please hold. Is it visible, the presentation?
It is now, Ana, go ahead.
All right, just to share a few details about Jotun, Philippines. As most of you may already know, Jotun is a Norwegian company and started in the year 1926 in Sandefjord, Norway, currently operating over 100 countries worldwide. And in the Philippines, our office are located in Santo Tomas, Batangas, which we are currently have more than 60 employees. Well, as for the CSR of Jotun, Philippines, over the last few years, CR has become increasingly important for Jotun because we firmly believe that an active CR gives a competitive advantage, provided, however, that the right CR investment in activities are done and that CR activities are visible to our surroundings. So presently, our CR, we have allotted a certain percentage from our sales for our CR activity every year, and ensure that involvement all department and employees. Also, currently our CSR provides assistance to schools, hospitals, and even make partnership to public and private institution, rather. So just to share a few activities. So we have various paint donations with different schools in our local communities. Some of it are not paint donation, but rather what are the institution needs, such as um, goods or donations for the Taal eruption victims, the PPEs issued to of Santo Tomas, and gifts and food package for the children at orthopedic hospital. So moving ahead, Jotun Philippines would like to create a CSR committee, because as of the moment, it's only through HR and admin. But this CSR committee will be under labor management and will ensure the involvement of all employees and department. Also, we would like to aim for a long-term partnership to institutions in need of assistance to aid children and poor families, especially in depressed areas. So, any question po?
I guess we can take the questions later, Anne.
Alright.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It is always a good thing indeed to focus your community investment efforts to your immediate host communities where your business operate. Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you also.
The next case study is on employee safety, which is featuring Norconsult Philippines, and I will be the presenter for that one. I prepared the slide for that. The case study is about taking care of our employees. This is actually about setting up what is called a safe haven program for the benefits of our employees in the Philippines. And as we all know, many areas in the countries are very prone to flooding, to typhoons, might also be a subject of localized civil unrest, volcanic eruptions, and other calamities. So there is a tendency for our people to get stranded or stuck in the office for a day or two when these things happen. So the idea of a safe haven is to make sure that every office, including the project site offices of Norconsult, are equipped with a standard supply of food and water for all warm bodies in the office, including consultants, for a couple of days. So the typical stocks, aside from food and water, are basic medicines, flashlights, batteries, matches and candles, portable stove, and fuel canisters. The provisions are stocked, monitored, and consumed and replaced in a first in and first out principle, and is subjected to spot audits to encourage active monitoring of expiration dates. With respect to the results here in the Philippines, in regard of our safe haven program, there would be occasions 2 or 3 times a year that our people are indeed getting stuck in the offices. So for an investment of as little as around 10,000 pesos a year for every project site or project office, the impact is indeed priceless. The employees feel that they are being cared for, and you would be surprised how productivity actually kicks up when people feel that they are being cared for by the company. So thank you for that excellent presentation, Ozone. That is the best one that I have heard in my entire working life. We are on to our next presentation. This is going to be in regard of the integrity or marketplace ethics pillar of CSR, and we have 2 case studies in this regard. The first shall feature SN Power and will be presented by Torbjorn Kirkebigarstad. The floor is yours, Torbjorn, Mr. T.
Thank you, Ozon. Let me see if I can share my screen as well. I'm not actually able to see the screen, but can you guys see the front page which says Scatec Philippines Norway Business Council?
Yes, we can, Torbjörn. Please go ahead.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry for this, guys. All right. My name is T, as Ozon refers to. My full name is Torbjörn Elliot Kirkeby Garstad. I actually work in a company called Scatec, and I just want to bring this to the attention to everybody. I used to work in a company called SN Power. We were owned by Norfund, which is the Norwegian Development Fund, up till end of January this year. That's when we became part of Scatec by Scatec buying SN Power from Norfund. So I wanted to share a couple of things just for everybody's sake of who is Scatec and who we are. Scatec is now a global renewable company, and we have ambitious growth plans when it comes to going forward. Currently, we have 3.4 gigawatts of assets in operations or projects. For those of you who are not in the power business, we're talking of investments in the market cap of 45 billion NOK for Scatec. We are 500 employees, and we are in 21 countries throughout the world. By the end of this year, that will have increased to close to 35 countries. We are in the renewable energy business, and Scatec is now, with the acquisition of SN Power, able to both develop, build, and operate renewable assets within solar, hydro, floating solar, wind, offshore wind, and batteries. And SN Power was an important addition to that capability. So those were a few words of why it says SN Power in the invite and why I'm presenting Scatec. Now to the subject for today, anti-corruption or corruption. Scatec, as also SN Power, we are a Norwegian entity. We have our headquarters in Oslo in Norway, and based on that, we comply with Norwegian anti-corruption laws, as well as any applicable laws in all the countries that we have our business or we have our projects. I think it's fair to say whenever there is a difference when it comes to anti-corruption law and how to implement, we follow the law that is the most strict one. So that means if the laws of the Philippines, for example, are more strict than the laws of Norway, we would follow the laws of the Philippines when it comes to anti-corruption. We also follow all the international standards and practices related to anti-corruption, which is an important element for the company, but also an important element for our shareholders and also the lenders that we work with in all the countries that we are in. We do not tolerate, and we work against corruption in all its forms. This could be done in many aspects, but overall enabling all our employees to say no and not be part of anything that has anything to do with something that could be viewed as corruption is a key enabler of us being able to do our business and make sure that we do that in a proper way. We also ask the same thing from our business partners. So wherever we are in the world, we expect that our partners, and we have partners in most of the countries that we are in the world, that they do follow the same principles and they have the same approach to this. And I think this is also, as a practical example, very important when it comes to finding these partners and working with them and making sure these are things that we clarify before we start working with them. So at the tail end, just a quick element on how we actually do this in more practical terms. We have a 5-step approach on how to handle corruption. The first one is making sure we do a proper risk analysis. This includes everything that we work on, all the interfaces that we have with suppliers, with government entities related to developing projects, building projects, and also operating our business in the different parts that we are in the world. Then when it comes to how to implement this, done properly, this means that we approach this in a careful, respectful manner. We communicate this to everybody that we are in dealings with in a transparent manner. So there is no doubt that Scatec is a non-corrupt, a non-acceptance company when it comes to corruptions in any part of the business that we do. Also, when it comes to many other countries that we operate, we do learn, and in some cases we even give up, because it isn't possible to get business done because the country is faced with so severe challenges when it comes to corruption that we just choose not to be there. That's very sad, but in some cases that is still part of the world that we operate in. As I mentioned earlier, there are sanctions is part of the tools, but this is a different word than I said. I used the word enable, but basically we call it sanctions in the sense that everyone in Scatec knows that there are sanctions in place, and should you be tempted to do something in this regard, there will be no mercy. People will be asked to leave the company and will no longer be part of our business. This relates also to suppliers, to consultants, to whoever we work with, actually. When it comes to corruption, this is a non-acceptable business practice, and we will be very harsh when it comes to implementing sanctions on that. We do have helplines in Scatec, and these are open 24/7, where employees can ask for advice. And the overall principle here is that no individual employee, no matter the level you are in the organization, shall face difficult ethical decisions alone. So if you're faced with something, you should always have someone to report to and discuss these issues with, to make sure that we do approach this in a anti-corruption manner, but also in a way that enables us to get business done, but not breaching with any of these aspects. Last but not least, we have a significant monitoring program when it comes to this. So each and every manager in the company has to sign off on, for example, that last year we have now entered into any contracts with advisors, lawyers, as such, which has elements in it that could even be borderline when it comes to enabling these advisors to implement corrupt measures. And we also, on an ongoing basis, keep monitoring this measures to make sure that we improve the program on a regular basis as we move forward. That was a short introduction to Scatec and how we deal with anti-corruption in our company. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Torbjørn, for making that clear connection from SN Power to Scatec, and also for the comprehensive discussion of Scatec's anti-corruption policy. For the next case study, let us welcome a high-level representative from the TUMA Group, Mr. Simon Frank, the Chief Human Resources Officer. Simon, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And that was maybe a little bit too high-level introduction. Thanks a lot. I will just, pick up from the presentation just given now, and I'll just find my presentation and share. I'll try to do it like this. Do you see my screen now?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Let me try.
Coming out now, Simon.
Okay. So you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So just in extension of what Torbjørn was now talking about, of course, we as a company in TUMA, we are also operating in an environment where we are pledging a very strong allegiance to having a strong anti-corruption policy structure in place, and from a, let's say, a marine transportation perspective, and having vessels traveling all over the world, most of our encounters to challenges within anti-corruption comes in situations where we have our ships trading globally. So what I'm going to just quickly share is one example that we had last year in our fleet, where we experienced that I would say, if anything is typical, this was quite a typical case in quite a typical location where we encounter challenges on the anti-corruption side. This is just a slide indicating our key numbers in TUMA Group, but I'll just jump straight into this particular case that we have agreed to share here. So we had this vessel that in May last year came to port of Abidjan in Ivory Coast, and as I just said, this is a typical location where we would have our people on board trained in terms of being prepared for potential challenges on the anti-corruption side. So in this particular case, we then had a port state control officer coming on board the vessel, which is very usual in such a location. And what unfortunately also is still quite usual was that in this case, the port state control officer was identifying some issues we had with some crew papers. And it's important to mention here that especially during 2020 and to a certain extent also up until now, transferring and transporting original documents can be a challenge. So many flag states in the maritime environment has allowed that copies of certificates can be used as significant documentation. But in this particular case, the port state control officer coming on board decided to raise his flag and again, quite typical, demand a cash amount to lift the observation he just made. And just to be clear, when we talk about cases like this, typically it can result in the ship being detained and losing the ticket to trade for a short period, and that has very serious consequences for the owners that we work closely with. So the port state facilities in these cases and the individuals who are doing these inspections, they are very well aware of how this can have a very strong impact on how we operate our vessels. And in many cases, especially in the past, they were successful in making these claims and getting the payment as they were requesting. So this is the background. This is what happened. A case that was not really a violation because we had flag stake approval for these particular certificates not being originally on board, not being on board in original content, but still the claim was made to pay on the spot $3,000. What we are now very clear about, also reference to Torbjørn's presentation before, is that we do not accept this, and we educate and train our senior officers in our policy and how to handle situations when they occur on locations all around. And therefore, this case actually went as per our book, where we, as part of our anti-corruption and anti-bribery policy, we demand that our masters, when they get these claims on board, that they take contact to the office, and we initiate a process where we contact the owner. And basically, the procedure is we're not paying these fines. What we can do, and that was also what happened here, is that we can request to get an official demand that is signed and stamped by an official authority to do the port state control, and then we have a situation where things are not falling under an anti-bribery or anti-corruption process, and this is also what happened here. So this is how we try to manage all the cases that we see. We have seen that being part of what is called the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, MACN, has helped the situations we face in many different locations today. But we still see that there is a strong demand for making payments that are not official and that are not approved and that are not according to official legislation. And we are on a regular basis seeing that this is happening in our fleet. And unfortunately, in a situation, in a case like this, we end up with having sometimes some off hire, some detention element in these cases. But there's a long-term stretch going on, I guess, in the industry right now, where we all have to stand quite close together to really be firm and reject any such requirements or requests to make these unofficial payments on board our ships. So this is a case we could share in terms of saying this was following our own procedure. We ended up not paying an amount. We ended up agreeing with the owner of the vessel that this was the right approach, and unfortunately we still ended up with a vessel that was for a while detained, but definitely with the right result from our perspective. So that concludes. So thank you for listening to this. I'm also, of course, available for answering any questions if that would be required.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that very interesting case study that you presented. Indeed, it's a jungle out there when it comes to living out the anti-corruption policy of a company. And it's a narrow path, as they say, and many fall by the wayside. But it's good to see that many companies are also succeeding in walking the straight and narrow. Thank you once again, Simon. So that is our fifth and last case study for today, as contained in our CSR guidebook. second edition, thanks to all the case study presenters. And you would also note from this guidebook that we have that we are also tackling a new area of CSR practice, which is the area of data privacy. In the Philippines, that means adherence to the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Now, to close this event, ladies and gentlemen, let me just synthesize by saying that the PNBC CSR Guidebook actually takes off from the ISO 26000 as a framework for good CSR practice. And the whole idea is not to play brinkmanship, but rather drive in the middle of your lane by adhering to the principles embodied in ISO 26000, which is a guidance document rather than a certification document. And these principles are basically accountability, transparency, ethical behavior, respect for stakeholders' interests, respect for rule of law, respect for international norms, and of course, respect for human rights. So gone are the days of companies who only exist for the sole reason of profit. And these are now the new story of business, which is more about having a purpose. Companies that are able to articulate well to their markets that they have a purpose of existence beyond profits are able to thrive better than those who fail to do so. And this guidebook also has an audit guide for those who are just going to try to start off with their CSR programs. We hope that you would find the audit guide in this guidebook useful. So any last words from you, Carl Martin, before we officially close?
I think thanks are in order again for the presentations we have received. And I think it's timely in more ways than one to be reminded of how all societies on the planet have created one or more versions of companies. The cynics will say that a company is a way to have maximum upside exposure with very little downside. But at the same time, there are tasks that companies solve better than anyone else. So I encourage all our members to download the book. Hard copies are available upon request, so you can have those if you need. But the whole world has gone more paperless and more digital, so let's try to make do with a digital version. So yes, I encourage everyone to download their version of it. Take a good look, discuss it in your senior management teams, and see how this can help you shape how you choose to interact with the world around you as a company. There are many good thoughts and ideas in the book, and I look forward to, when we do the third edition, to get examples from some of our other members who may be inspired by this to strike out on their own and do something brave, unexpected, and novel. On that note, I wish everyone continued health and safety. That's particularly salient in a time like this. And we, from PNBC side, cannot wait to see you all in person again as soon as that is permitted and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl Martin. And for those who want to download it, you can go to www.pnbc.ph. Just scroll down to the bottom of the front page, and you will see a link there for downloading this document. Those who have questions related to the case studies and to the guidebook itself, you can email us at info@pnbc.ph. And with that, thank you, everyone, and happy downloading. And may you all succeed in your CSR programs. Enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you very much.